You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get sad again.
Welcome to Opinion Nation.
And we stand today on the edge of a new frontier.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
What makes us Americans is our shared commitment to an ideal, that all of us are created equal.
I, too, am America.
Now here's your host, Bryce Robbins.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bryce Robbins on this Saturday morning. And today we're going to be talking about an interesting topic that actually just broke yesterday. So, in the presidential race, we see on one side the Democrats talking about tolerance and everything of that nature. And on the other side, we have the people calling out the PC police. So, here is where the discussion takes place. Are we being too PC? Are we not being, I guess, sensitive enough? Where do we draw the line? Well, today we have a special guest, Jamaica Ponder, who I'll be introducing later to the show, and in just a couple minutes. We're going to have an interview about something that happened at her high school, Princeton High School in Princeton, New Jersey. So I have a clip here that I will play, and this should get everybody up to par in the situation.
So disgusted.
Jamaica Ponder disgusted by this picture of a recent house party, students placing cups in the shape of a swastika and a Star of David for a beer pong drinking game called Holocaust Pong, or Jews versus Nazis. Ponder, here with her mom, says some of the students begged her to take it down from her blog post.
I'm not going to lie, I definitely considered doing so because I know these kids. And I didn't want to cause myself any problems at school, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I just felt like it was the right thing to leave it up there.
It's one of the top schools in the state. Some Jewish students telling me they weren't so offended.
This is the sort of thing that could happen to any high school.
There's a very big difference between actually being, a Nazi or being anti-Semitic on purpose and, just, being stupid and drunk in a basement.
Classmates tell me some of the students in this picture are Jewish and helped set up the game, while others left the party. One Jewish parent is outraged.
Post-Holocaust, I think it's offensive to humanity.
The superintendent in a statement says, quote, "I am deeply upset that some of our students chose to engage in a drinking game with clearly anti-Semitic overtones and to broadcast their behavior over social media." Beyond the symbolism here, there's also the underage drinking. Jamaica's mom.
My hope is that parents stop saying boys will be boys and stop saying it's a rite of passage.
Brian Thompson, News 4 New York.
All right, so now I would like to introduce Jamaica to the show. Hello, Jamaica. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well.
So there's obviously two sides to every story. So this was present on Snapchat, correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay, and you then took a screen cap of it and uploaded it to your blog. What was your first thoughts when you saw this photo?
At first, I didn't realize what they were doing. So I realized something was a little weird about the photo, so I went back and looked at it 2 and 3 times. And it was the fourth time that I was looking at it. It was only up for about 3 seconds. And the fourth time I was looking at it, I took a screenshot. I was like, is that a swastika? And after looking at it more closely, I realized that they were playing Jews versus Nazis beer pong.
Okay, so I'm just curious. You heard your mom say we have to stop saying that boys will be boys. And let's just expel the notion. These kids are douchebags for playing this game. It's not right. It's wrong. But was this the right course of action? So I want you to, I guess, defend or state why you did this.
I chose this course of action because after evaluating all the options available to me, I felt as though this would be the most effective way to make known exactly what happened and why it is unacceptable and needs to be dealt with in an appropriate manner. Just to give a rundown of exactly what else I could have done, I could have gone to my school, which I did before I posted it, and I was notified by my administration that they basically had no power because it didn't happen on school grounds during school time. It had no affiliation with the school. So though they, of course, would be expected to bring in the parents and talk to the children about how insensitive it is and how, underage drinking is wrong, especially when they're in positions of leadership, as all those students are, they're unable to discipline them. That would be completely up to the parents. So the school has no jurisdiction in this. So I move on from the school and I say, okay, could I go directly to the kids in the photo? Now, I know these kids. I go to school with them. I've interacted with them on a personal level. And I had a pretty good guess at exactly what their reaction would be to me either going up to them or privately messaging them a screenshot of the photo and saying, this is unacceptable. It would more likely than not be met with disregard and I would be, for lack of a better term, blown off. As they did to the people who were at the party and that ended up leaving after asking them to stop, completely blowing them off. And so I felt that the only thing I really could do to make sure that something was done about it was to utilize the platform which I had created for myself, that being my blog, and posting it on there so that all of my readers and hopefully their parents would see exactly what is going on in Princeton.
Okay, so after doing some research, it turns out that this game has been known to be around for at least 4 years. It surfaced on the internet in 2012 approximately. And it was actually said that it may have been created by a Jewish student. So my question now would be, this doesn't seem to have been an act of blatant racism or prejudice, more or malice, more of an act of stupidity, lack of humor, or poor choice of humor. And since these boys didn't invent the game, do you think that this is a step too far in their punishment, being exposed to the news. I mean, it's trending on Facebook. It's going all over. We're talking about it right here.
Do I think it's too far? No. Because I don't think that whether or not they created the game is relevant. Personally, I had never heard of the game. I had never seen the game until I came across Snapchat. So as far as I was concerned, they had just made it up on the spot. But I mean, I guess that isn't really the point. And to focus on that takes away from what is actually the issue at hand. I would say the fact that it's getting this much coverage and this much press speaks volume to how large of an issue it is, and the reaction that I've been receiving from a lot of students who do attend my school proves even more so what a large problem this ignorance and this lack of sensitivity towards others and the hardships which they and, you know, their families or their ancestors have been through.
Okay.
It's just more proof to the actual problem at hand.
But here's the thing, though. It said that a lot of these kids were actually Jewish. Now, I know that, you know, I guess, you know, cultures can make fun of their own cultures, I guess, and I think society accepts that. I'm not saying it's okay, but I'm saying I think society accepts that more so. Do you recognize that some of those kids may or may not have been of that religion?
Oh, yeah. As I said, I know them personally, and so I know that 2 of the boys are in fact Jewish. I went to one of their bar mitzvahs, and after speaking with them, one says that he had done nothing wrong because he left right after the picture was taken due to the fact that he was uncomfortable, and he rejected the game, and so he decided to leave. The other one admits that he did act in a way which was stupid and unacceptable, but he said to me explicitly that he just didn't have the guts to speak up about it, despite the fact that he was uncomfortable. So this isn't a case of people making fun of themselves. This is a case of kids not feeling comfortable or feeling as though they are in a position to defend themselves from the type of malice and I guess prejudice that they're facing from their peers because they want to fit in.
So recently, I brought this up on our previous show. I was watching an episode of Conan. Now, I absolutely detest the show Conan. I don't think he's funny at all. But on one recent episode, he brought on Sarah Silverman. And Sarah Silverman was dressed up as Adolf Hitler, portraying Adolf Hitler, and defending herself as Adolf Hitler against the notion that he or she is like Donald Trump. Our society seems to accept a comedian dressing up like Adolf Hitler going on a TV show saying she's not as bad as Donald Trump, but we fail to see any room to give these children any leeway here. Because while what they did was wrong, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to protest Judaism or things of that nature. So do you think this is a case of picking and choosing where we think things are okay and where they're not?
I guess I would say that this is a case of deciding when something's okay and when something isn't. I mean, for Sarah Silverman to dress up as Adolf Hitler and talk about how she supports Trump is very similar to how the show Hogan's Heroes. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but its premise is a bunch of Jews in a concentration camp playing pranks and doing their best to mess with the Nazis who are running the camp. And it was a popular show. It was on for 4 or 5 seasons, and it was, you know, people found it to be funny and accepted it, just as they accepted Sarah Silverman. And I think that's because in those actions, there lies a message, and they're trying to portray something. By Sarah Silverman dressing up Adolf Hitler and supporting Trump, she's saying that Trump is the equivalent of Adolf Hitler, and she is showing and she is trying to share an opinion and spread a message. The boys playing the Nazi beer pong game were not trying to spread a message. They weren't trying to make a statement. They weren't trying to do anything besides get drunk. And I think that speaks volumes to the insensitivity which is displayed, because they weren't trying to achieve anything.
So if the whole issue is that children were being insensitive, the way in which you went about doing it, do you feel that you've educated them that, you know, this isn't okay? Do you think that educating them would have been a better route? I mean, to me, when I first read this, I saw, God, these kids are real blatant jerks, but they're knuckleheads, and they're not going to do this in the future. and God, this was, you were in the wrong time at the wrong place with the wrong idea. But as kids, can't we all say that we've done really stupid things? I mean, I'm just curious.
Yeah. I fail to, I fail to agree with the idea that, wrong time, wrong place, stupid mistake, because it's not an isolated incident, first of all. They were not in a position where no one was telling them that it was wrong, because people told them to stop. There were kids there who, after being ignored, had to leave. So it's not this whole, they didn't know, they didn't think it through. They had time to think it through. Snapchat is up for 24 hours. You have a 24-hour window to decide whether or not you're going to take it down. And the photo was actually left up for the full 24-hour period. So that means that not only did they ignore people telling them to stop, but they also, had to make that conscious decision that what they were doing was not only okay, but worth being broadcasted. Now, on top of that, do I think that education is the better route? I think education is the only route. But I don't think that it could have been the first line of action, because for people to be educated, they need to recognize that there's a problem first. And if this had gone under the rug and under the radar, as it would have if I had not said anything, then nobody would have realized that there's a problem, and education never would have been brought up. So, we would never have the platform, and no one would feel that there's a need for a heightened education of American history.
So here's the thing. I am an American Jewish guy, right? And I've experienced people throughout high school, if they're going to crack a joke, they'll target, you're Jewish, this and that and the other thing. And sometimes, I laugh it off, haha, it's just boys, like your mom said, it's almost like boys being boys. In this scenario, though, we have alcohol, underage drinking, and teenage boys. And it's not a recipe for, success. That they're not going to be studying for their SATs in these conditions. Odds are they're going to be doing stupid things. So it's just my concern, and I'm wondering if you share the same opinion, that this isn't this isn't where we should be judging people from. I mean, we saw at one point there were those Yale students, I believe it was Yale, who were yelling on a bus this awfully racist chant about lynching black people in the United States. And that got media attention. And that man ended up with a bunch of African-American leaders like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, and he was apologizing. So do you think, though, that this is just another incident of kids being stupid, blatantly just stupid? Or do you think, there needs to be a full apology process? These kids should all have their names released and everything. Like, these kids should get the full extent. I'm just curious where you're at on this issue.
Yeah, no. Well, to reference the Yale incident, which you just brought up, I don't think that can be properly equated to what's going on.
Oh, it was Oklahoma State. I'm sorry. It was Oklahoma State. I apologize.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No problem. Oklahoma State, wherever. I don't think that's the same thing, really, because I think that incident was blatant racism. I mean, if you're going around saying about hanging black people, that's not stupidity. That's just, a superiority complex painted over with white supremacy. But so I don't think it's the same thing. I think here, yes, it is definitely stupid, definitely without a doubt wrong, but I don't think that we can excuse it by saying, they were drinking, they were drunk, so their inhibitions were, skewed. I don't think we can make excuses for the behavior, because I believe that making excuses for it is letting them off the hook and making it seem as though it's not a big deal. And it is. And that's why it's getting so much media coverage. Because
but here's the thing. Deal. Why is it necessarily a big deal? I'm just trying to play devil's advocate a little here. Why is it such a big deal? These kids weren't hurting anybody, it didn't seem. It didn't seem they were, doing anything outside the realm of something that, Sarah Silverman did, or the TV show you're talking about, where society will accept making fun of the Holocaust and the Nazis in some areas, but we refuse to allow it in some other cases. We'll say it's horrendous. When it's, for satire purposes, it's fine. But when it's a drinking game, it's not fine. And again, this game's been around before. So why is this the one that really is pushing the bubble, so to speak?
Well, I think the saying that it didn't hurt anyone is just incorrect. I know just from having to go to school the next day and the day after releasing the blog post that people are definitely hurting. And I mean, I've been receiving hordes of messages from people across the nation saying that when they saw it, they felt personally attacked. Even though they don't know these kids. You know, they may have never stepped foot in Princeton, New Jersey, but when they saw that photo, they felt personally attacked. And so that's just proof that their actions did hurt people. And as we constantly fight to show that it is, in fact, something that needs to be properly addressed, I think those who try and play it off as, you know, satire or a joke that needs to be accepted are perpetrating this, perpetuating this misconstrued notion that it isn't something that should be taken seriously, because it is. And I repeat when I say that they didn't have a message. So it is not in the same category as the satire which you witnessed on the Conan show or Hogan's Heroes, you know, an old television show where they were sending a message. These boys had no message to send. They chose to do something insensitive, and they chose to do something which they knew was wrong, and even if they didn't know initially, they were told it was wrong, and they made the conscious choice whether they were inebriated or not, because I'll have you know there are some sober kids in the picture. They made that decision knowing what they were doing. And that is just
Welcome to Opinion Nation.
Sorry.
That obviously they are just so uneducated and so privileged that they feel as though they can do whatever they want and not be concerned with how it will affect their community. And that's what I think the real
Okay, so I would like to move I want to ask another question about this, and then I want to broaden the topic a little bit. But was this worth essentially dismantling the reputation of the public school? Because that's what's happening, essentially.
Oh, I think that the reputation of the school is completely irrelevant. I for lack of a better way to put it, I could have never cared less about anything, because the fact of the matter is that the school's reputation is not being tarnished by me writing about what they did. The school's reputation was tarnished as soon as the student leaders released the picture. And so I don't think that considering whether or not my actions were worth tarnishing the reputation of the school is an accurate question, just by the fact that by putting it out there, it didn't change, it didn't change how the school was viewed by the people inside of it, because they already knew. And for the people outside of the community who had no thought and no consideration of Princeton High School, it has altered their view, but not necessarily in a negative way, due to the way that the community is, rallying against it and speaking out against it. And for those who have heard of Princeton High School and held it in a high regard, if it changes their opinion, if anything, it shows that there are issues that need to be dealt with. And if that means that the reputation of the school is going to go down, it will make it harder for kids to get into Ivy League schools, well, you'll have to excuse me if I say that, yes, it is most definitely worth it.
So was this widespread, essentially national coverage, your end goal with this?
Not at all. I honestly did not think it would get outside of Princeton. I thought maybe it would be in the town topics. The mayor would release a statement and they'd get a little slap on the wrist. When it was picked up by larger news organizations, I was extremely surprised.
So if you were just expecting a slap on the wrist, do you then think that this is going too far almost?
No, because they're not getting anything more than a slap on the wrist. I mean, in terms of disciplinary action, there's nothing has happened. No one has been removed from any leadership positions. No one's been kicked off sports teams. Nobody's lost any scholarships. As far as I'm concerned, no schools have been notified directly by the administration. So they have gotten exactly what I thought they were going to receive in terms of punishment. Now, in terms of public notoriety, that is something completely different.
Do you think that these students should have had scholarships rebuked and colleges called? Do you think that would have been an appropriate? Do you think that would have been appropriate?
No. in all honesty, I didn't consider what I thought would be an appropriate punishment because I don't think it's my place. I mean, I'm not the principal. I'm not the vice principal. I'm not an administrator. So it's not my place to say what I think the punishment should be. I just wanted people to see what was going on in my school.
So wait, so the kids did get their admittance remitted?
No, they were not notified. No, none of their schools were notified as far as I'm concerned. As far as my knowledge goes, nothing has been done by the school in terms of disciplinary action. That being said, the school is not legally allowed to tell me what they're doing. And even if I wanted to know, I haven't asked because, as I said previously, that's not really what I'm concerned with.
Okay, because I've been given, told information prior that kids were, apparently they were, not admitted as a result. But if you're going to say that they weren't, then that's fine. I guess I won't move forward with questions there. But if kids were, denied admittance because of this situation, would you then, I guess, wind back almost? I mean, this seems like it's going very far. From a stupid game of beer pong to kids are getting what they worked for in high school is getting taken away despite their real opinions towards the issue.
What question are you asking?
Do you think it would be appropriate if, let's just say they did get their admittance denied to a college, scholarships taken away, do you think that is appropriate? Do you think that this one game can show whether or not it's indicative of their character? Do you think this one incident should cost them so much?
I guess I would say that I don't really feel as though I'm in a position to deem whether or not I'd feel it was appropriate, just because I don't really have the latitude to make that type of, or to form that type of opinion, because it's not my place. If you understand where I'm coming from, what happens to them in terms of disciplinary action, or whether they do or don't get scholarships or get into schools, is not what I'm about. That's it. It's just not what is supposed to be focused on, and not what I choose to focus on, nor do I choose to form opinions about it.
Okay, because I have been told that scholarships have been rescinded, leadership positions have been taken away, and essentially that this isn't going away, that colleges were notified. That's the information I was given. So, I mean, this is thousands of dollars, reputations we're talking about, and I wanted to know, I've done stupid things in my life, right? I've said stupid things. And for those one stupid things to encompass thus all that I've worked for in high school, all that I've worked for my life just gets taken away because I said one stupid thing that was supposed to go away in 24 hours. I don't know how I feel about that, but I want to move on to a broader topic with you, if that's okay. We're going to go to break in about 2 minutes, so I'm actually going to stay with this, and then can you stay with me till after break to talk a little bit more about the broader issue here?
Sure.
Okay, great. So I'm just curious, what is school like at this point for you? When you see these kids, when the issue is there, how do you feel about it?
School for me has been a little crazy the last couple of days, just due to the news crews and all the media, and me having to, meet with the administration and my guidance counselors who were checking in to make sure that I was okay and that nobody had done anything to me. It's been hectic. But I go to school, and those who feel comfortable enough to voice negative opinions online rarely feel comfortable enough to do so in person, and so I don't get negative comments. Things have been shouted at me from afar, or people have given me a mean look, but it's nothing that's substantial enough to really have an impact on me as a person. But I do get a lot of positive feedback, which reinforces my conviction that I did the right thing, because kids come up to me and they just say thank you. Jewish kids, Christian kids, no matter their denomination, they just say that this is something that needs to be brought up because it probably wasn't the first time it had happened, and if nobody had said something, it probably wouldn't have been the last time. And
okay.
So,
my last question before we go to break is, in your words, has the punishment far outgrown the crime here? What do you think?
Has the punishment what?
Outgrown the crime. Are they getting punished for more than what they did here?
As far as I'm concerned, they have yet to be punished. So, no.
Okay. All right. No, fair. All right. I'm Bryce Robbins. I'm joined with Jamaica Ponder. We will be talking more about this issue of race, prejudice, and, this issue of beer pong when we get back. This is Opinion Nation. Stay with us. We'll be back after this break.
The staff of K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network is proud to announce that our very own Rowdy Rick Robinson has been selected as one of the top conservative talk show hosts in the nation for his program America Off the Rail. Again, congratulations to Rowdy Rick Robinson for a job well done and another reason to stay connected to K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry, or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
All right, welcome back. I'm Bryce Robbins. Today I'm joined by Jamaica Ponder. She just recently exposed in Princeton High School an incident where students were playing beer pong. On one side, it was Nazis with a swastika. On the other side, it was Jews with a Star of David throwing balls into a cup of beer, and I assume it, led to them getting drunk. I imagine they weren't too sober when they started the game, but whatever. Jamaica. So I guess I feel, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I think that this was ultimately a bad joke, that this was a bad sense of humor, that somebody thought this was funny, and it got taken way out of hand. And I think that it's not, I don't know. I think that in our quest to root out stupidity and bullying, we've more or less created a society so scared of the topic of, the Holocaust, racism, prejudice, issues such of this nature, to the very fact that we've become the very thing we wanted to root out and, get rid of intolerance. But instead, we've created more intolerance, the tolerance of intolerance. So where would you go from this? What's your next step in, because now these kids are, I've read that they're getting scholarships taken away, schools are being notified, leadership positions are getting, gone. And if that is the case, where do we go from here? Where do we grow from here? Where do the students learn that they were wrong, to not do this again? And is this the message we want to be sending, that a bad joke will get you to this point?
I would have to say, firstly, that I think they know by now that they should never do this again, and I doubt that they will. That being said, I don't look at it as a bad joke. Perhaps we have differing viewpoints on that, just because I think that the notion that it's not only okay to do, but also something worth being broadcasted over social media says a lot more than, a bad joke would necessarily. I think that speaks not only to their character, but also to what we are willing to tolerate as a community or as a nation. But where do we go from here? I think that we need to start with addressing the actual issue at hand and not focusing so much on the repercussions or the reputation of Princeton High School or the reputation of the boys, because by choosing to make that the focal point of the conversation, we're completely missing the point of the article and of the picture itself, and in a way letting the guys off because we're focusing on what harm has been done by the media and by me instead of what harm was done in the first place. And so I think that's a cop-out, and it's one that I refuse to accept, and I don't choose to focus the conversation around that because I don't think it's the point.
But do you think that them learning their lesson from media exposure was the right way to teach them this lesson? I mean, I think that in this sense, we're taking this issue of, stupidity and sophomoric humor will not necessarily go away with these artificial rules and prohibition on jokes and speech. So I think, again, this all comes back to education on tolerance and acceptance, and it emphasizes, more than making more than just media should be teaching them this lesson. I think that is not only not going to teach them the lesson, but it's going to hurt them in the long run to the point where they cannot, redeem themselves almost. How can they show that they are sorry, that they were wrong, because all that's been done already?
Well, they can show that they're sorry by issuing an apology, which has been done by none of those involved, as far as I know of. No public apology has been issued. That being said, do I think the media is the one who should be teaching the lesson? No. I think that's the responsibility of parents, of the school, of communities. But I think that it's important that the media got a hold of this because it's making it a widespread issue. Because it is a widespread issue. It's definitely not only happening in Princeton. Princeton is a great place, and it is very accepting. It's very liberal, and which is why it's so surprising that it's happening in Princeton. Because if it had gone down in an Alabama basement, no one would be making the fuss that it is. Princeton has certain standards to which it is held, and these standards have been completely disregarded and decimated by some of the children of, citizens and inhabitants of the town, and so that's why it's such a big deal. And I think that it's really important. I think this is something that shouldn't just go away. I think it's something that needs to be really looked at and observed and taken in by communities as a learning tool and example, and I think they need to take it and utilize it to inform their kids and everyone else, for that fact of the matter, of what is right and what is wrong. And yes, there is freedom of speech. They had the freedom to post it and to do it, and I have the freedom to take it and to post it too, and to write about it, and to voice my opinion on how wrong it is. Now, if that is seen as something that shouldn't be done by, the general public, which as far as I'm concerned, it has not been viewed that way. It has been taken in as, thank God somebody said something. But if it were to be seen as something wrong, then that also says a lot about what people need to learn. It needs to be utilized and taken in and not rejected as something horrible and awful that's going to ruin these kids' lives, because that is missing the point.
So it actually came to my attention recently before doing this, and it was actually a question that's just been submitted, that somebody commented on your blog post using a derogatory word, the N-word, and obviously that has no place at all. And the IP address was traced to Princeton High School. So I want to know, do you consider your high school to be a place of tolerance and acceptance of minorities when the primary demographic is, of course, white high school students? I mean, that is absolutely a serious matter.
Yes, I do think my high school has some issues in terms of race relations. I don't think it's a huge issue, but also I don't feel properly equipped to speak on behalf of any demographic. I don't want to speak for anyone but myself. So when I say this, I do not face any racial tension myself. That could be attributed to various different reasons. Many different factors, add to that. But personally, I feel comfortable going to school every day. I don't feel threatened. I don't feel as though I'm treated any differently than any other students. That being said, yeah, I receive comments all the time that use the N-word, all of the time. And it doesn't surprise me that I received one from an IP address coming from the school, because as is displayed by the picture, ignorance is rampant. And I attribute that to the frivolous and copious amounts of privilege which we have in Princeton, that people just don't know what is unacceptable. So it doesn't surprise me, but I also don't feel threatened when I walk the hall. So
this is honestly a question that kind of just popped into my mind well before doing this interview with you. And I'm not trying to turn this about, your race or anybody's race, but I'm just curious. You are not Jewish at all, I think, right?
No, I'm not.
No, you are. What is your background, actually? I'm just curious. Your ancestry, your ethnicity. American first, but what came second?
I go to church most of the time. The Princeton United Methodist Church, great place. My parents, my mom's from New Jersey, my dad is from Chicago. Their grandparents and parents are from the South. My great-great-grandmother was born a slave. And that's about it,
Okay. So,
African American to the base with me, I guess.
All right. So, exactly. So, I just wanted to further confirm, my question here. So, you are African American. I actually didn't know that you're of slave ancestry. That's actually quite interesting. And that would be a whole other conversation for a whole other time that I'd definitely be intrigued to have with you. But my question here would be, you're not Jewish and you are African American. Why did you see this issue as the one to come out against? It normally seems, and I'm not saying that as a bad thing at all. That's quite interesting, actually. But you came out to speak on behalf of a different group, was something I actually can't say I've seen too much of when you watch the news and stuff. So why this issue was the one that you made your issue to post about?
This isn't the first time that I've come and spoken on behalf of a group which I don't personally belong. I've written posts about TSA security checks and wondering why they always happen to stop the man in the turban. I've written posts about gay rights and how homophobia is rampant in the hallways of my school. I don't wear a turban and I'm not gay, but these are still things which I feel personally affected by because I think that injustice or unfairness or ignorance to people anywhere is something which I feel as though everyone should concern themselves with, because it doesn't matter if it's happening to you. If it's happening to anyone, it is beyond unacceptable, and people need to speak up.
No, that's actually a very, I want to thank you personally, being somebody who's of the race affected now, or of the religion affected. While I'm not religious in any facet, I think it's very noble of somebody to step up and say when something is wrong about a different culture. I don't know if necessarily I would have done the same thing. I don't know if I would have reacted the same way. And I think that, in a sense, that was brave of you. I don't know if I agreed with it, but I have to say in that aspect of you having the courage to step up for some other group that is not yours makes this a totally different, interesting, I guess, case to look at. And I like that. I definitely think that adds a little uniqueness to this instance. Now, I'm just curious, when dealing with the kids who were affected in this case, was there any ill relations with them? Did you know them? Did you give them a warning? Did this just kind of pop up? How did this go about happening?
Well, I know two of them very personally because we're in a group called Teen PEP, which stands for Teen Prevention Education Program at my school, which is a leadership group where we educate freshmen about sexual health and sexual relations and how, alcohol and drugs tie into that. And so, I mean, that's basically the gist of it. So I know two of them very well and have no bad relations with either of them. There is one student photographed who I previously had disagreements with over some of my previous writings, majorly whether or not there should be a use of the N-word in any demographic other than Black kids or Black people in general. We've definitely disagreed on that front. And
what was your take on that? I'm just curious.
Say that again?
What was your take on that stance? I'm just actually curious.
Oh, well, my article didn't cover whether or not the N-word should be used in its entirety at all. It covered its use by people who aren't Black, and it was saying you shouldn't. If you're not Black, you should not use the N-word. I didn't go into whether or not Black people should use the N-word, and I didn't, speak on that behalf, but I did say that if you are not Black, it is not yours to use. I think the other one is a completely different discussion, but that is what I spoke about. I knew one of the students pictured, and I disagreed on that, and I've also been in situations where I've called him out on using offensive language, such as calling things gay that when he needs to call something stupid or, things of that nature, very similar to this one. And so we didn't necessarily have a positive relationship, but it wasn't something that I would consider, him my arch nemesis or someone who I was out to get. Quite frankly, he was relatively irrelevant to who I am and what I did until he was photographed.
Okay, so did you ever feel perhaps you should have blurred the kids' faces?
I did. This is actually something that I thought about for a very long time and talked about with a lot of different people. These are kids who are really prominent at my school, so I was considering the fact that if there are kids nobody knew playing this game, would it be such a big deal? And of course, it would be disgusting and equally as upsetting to the Princeton community, who is the first ones to receive, the information. But it wouldn't be as big of a deal because these are guys who are very, very prominent student athletes, great students, student leaders, et cetera, et cetera. So I decided not to blur their faces because I think that it was important to show that the people doing this stuff and the people broadcasting this stuff are the people we're supposed to be looking up to at school. And so I thought that in and of itself sent a very large message. Now, it's irrelevant who they are to the rest of the nation, but it wouldn't have gotten to the rest of the nation if it weren't such a large deal in Princeton first. So that is why I chose not to blur their faces. Also, I'm not a news corporation. I'm not with the Associated Press. I don't write for the New York Times. I'm a junior in high school who has a blog, and so I don't have any obligations that I have to abide by. I don't have a set of rules. Of course, there's a code of ethics for professional journalists, but that I am not. So I do, of course, take that into consideration when I do post my work, and it is something that I hold in a high regard, but seeing as though I don't really have to abide by a set of rules, I found that this was an opportunity which was unique to my situation, and I decided to take full control of it.
In the end, looking back, and maybe this isn't, I'll ask you for your answer now, but maybe it may change over time. You know, do you think your opinion may evolve on this or change from where it is now?
Oh, I think opinions are constantly evolving. As you learn, as you go and go through things, your opinions change. My opinion hasn't changed yet. It may. I would never close the door to my opinion changing.
Were kids hostile at all towards you for doing this? I mean, I imagine they must have been, right?
Oh, definitely. Because they're angry. People don't like seeing their friends doing things, and they don't like seeing their friends getting called out. And, you know, these are people who symbolize something to a lot of the kids in my school. They symbolize success and what it is to be cool. And so when you see that taken down, people feel personally offended. And, yeah, I've gotten a lot of negative online backlash. But it has yet to deter me, I guess. You know, maybe I just got lucky that I don't really care about the opinions of others. But I don't. And I stand very, very strongly with what I did. And I still stand by the fact that I think I did the right thing.
I mean, yeah. If you feel the conviction that you did the right thing, then by all means. But, you know, so did Hillary Clinton when she went into the Iraq War. But I'm just kidding. I had to interject something about Hillary Clinton being negative into today's episode. So I just had to. I'm a political junkie. I can't help myself. Now,
he really can't. He's addicted.
Thanks, Rick. That's our producer, if you didn't know. So, Jamaica, in all, at the end of the day, when looking at this issue, when weighing everything, if you could go back and knowing what you know now, knowing where this would have gone to the point where it is where you are right now, would you have done anything differently?
I would have done one thing differently. I would have given the boys warning. I would have said to them, I would have given them the same courtesy that I gave my administration. Because I went to my administration before I released it, and I told them what was going to land on their desks in the morning because I respect my administration and I wanted to work with them. And I would have done the same thing for the boys. I would have said, listen, this is about to go out. I don't know how big of a deal it's going to be, but I know that it's going to cause a lot of fuss. Prepare yourself and prepare your parents. That is what I would have done differently.
Would you have given them a chance, at least, if you were going to do that, to apologize if they have offended you? And, you know, would you have given that opportunity before posting this?
No, because I'm not who needs to be apologized to. It's not about me. It has never been about me. I'm just the source who people are finding me out from. I don't need an apology, and that's not what I look for either. So, I mean, yes, of course I would have accepted one. I don't reject apologies necessarily, especially when, you know, they're genuine. But that's not what I was seeking. And so that would not have deterred me from acting the way that I did.
Now, I guess for my last couple questions, and I'm just blatantly curious, from this point going forward, you know, this is pretty big, I guess, in the lives of those students, and they made a dumb decision. Do you think that, that you're almost being a PC police, and because a high school student made a knucklehead decision, and we're going to get him for this? I mean, do you think it was your place to go after them for something they posted about on Snapchat that was stupid?
What are you asking me if I feel like the peace police?
Yeah, do you feel like you essentially, I guess some would say, who are against you at this point, would say that you were being the PC police. And I saw that as some comments. So I'm curious, do you think that that's, I guess, acceptable? Do you think that it was your place to do this?
I think it's everyone's place to stand up where they see injustice in the world.
Is this injustice, or is this high school kids being knuckleheads?
Oh, I refuse to make excuses for them. This is blatant.
It's not an excuse for them. I mean,
blatantly wrong.
It's not an excuse for them.
No, by calling it stupid, it's making an excuse for them, and that's something that I wholeheartedly reject.
But they don't support Nazis.
Something that's a result. Then
they don't support Nazis. Hang on, but they don't support Nazis, right? They don't support Adolf Hitler. They were making a stupid idiot. Like, they should all be kicked in the nuts. But God, they were making a dumb joke, and now it's costing them thousands of dollars. But when, Prince Harry comes out dressed up like a Nazi for Halloween, when Sarah Silverman comes on the Conan show, people laugh. It goes on a tabloid or two, and it dies down. At the end of the day, these kids are going to get a bigger slap on the wrist than people who do it, willfully. So I don't know. I think that the issue here truly lies with, I guess, how you view it, right? Would you agree with that as how one perceived it? I guess the angle you're looking at it from. But any last thoughts? Any last words?
Sure. Yeah, I think the issue does lie in how people react to it. And I think that shows where we are, not only as where Princeton is as a community, but where we are as a nation. And I think it's something that we should take a really good, hard look at, because the way that people react, so in the photo, even if I don't agree with it, I appreciate hearing what the world has to say. And I thank you, Bryce, for inviting me on today's show. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and I really appreciate how civil you are. Even though we have obviously differing opinions on some of the facts of the entire situation, I appreciate you having me on today.
Jamaica, I have to say, you've been one of the absolute best guests to come on the show. So thank you very much. Have a great day, Jamaica.
You too, Bryce.
All right. Have a good one. Have a great spring break if you're on spring break still. All right, everybody. That was Jamaica Ponder. And she's going off now. And to wrap things up, I want to just say that, of course, and I want to set the record very clear, that racism, of course, is not an acceptable issue. Or prejudice, or stupidity, or humor that is targeting genocide is not funny in any facet. But what we must also think about is the level of intellect that this humor is coming out of. Yes, they were 18-year-old drunk high school students. Do we expect them to say jokes that are going to be funny, intellectually okay, and politically correct? No, absolutely not. And to be quite honest, for people who have been in high school, or everybody's been in high school, should know that people do stupid things. The question ultimately that underlines this issue is, should these kids face the consequence that they are? Did they do it with malice intent? And was this justified? Was Jamaica's argument justified? That's for you to decide. I've done my job. I've told you the story, and I brought the story to you. So please, comment on our Facebook page, Opinion Nation. Tweet us at OPNAT News. Or if you want to be on the show, give me an email at opnat.news@gmail.com. Again, you can message us on Facebook at Opinion Nation, and I would love to hear your input, comment, post, or whatever you might want to do. I'm Bryce Robbins. This is Opinion Nation. See you next week.
Ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.